They built statues for players. They sang for scorers. But the man who built Liverpool from nothing, they left him behind. His name was Bill Shankly. He didn't arrive with money. He didn't chase fame. He came from coal, from hunger, from streets that taught discipline the hard way. 4 of his brothers also became professional footballers. In Glenbuck, football wasn't escape. It was inheritance. While others spoke tactics, he spoke of people, of duty, of dignity, of football as a shared struggle, a mirror for the working class to see themselves as something more. He believed the game was sacred, not because of silverware, but because of what it gave to those who had nothing else. He gave his life to football, not to be remembered, but to make others feel alive. What he built at Liverpool would change the sport forever. But what the game gave him back wasn't enough. This is not just a story about trophies, it's a story about sacrifice, about a man who gave everything and died wondering if it still meant something. Subscribe if you believe the men who built football deserve more than silence. Because Shankly didn't chase legacy, he became it. Before he was a manager, before he built dynasties, Bill Shankly was a soldier in boots, a midfielder who fought every match like it was war. He started at Carlisle United, but it was at Preston North End where he became a warrior. 17 years, nearly 300 league appearances, a fearless right half with lungs of iron and a tackle that spoke before his mouth did. In 1938, he lifted the FA Cup, Preston's crown jewel, before the war took everything. During World War II, he served in the Royal Air Force and still played wherever he could. Wartime guest appearances, charity matches. Because even in chaos, Shankly believed football had a duty to lift spirits. He became club captain, a symbol, a leader. But when the war ended and the boots got heavier, his first team spot faded. In 1949, aged 35, he made the decision to step away. But what broke him wasn't time. It was betrayal. After 16 years of service, no testimonial, no farewell match, no thank you, no honor. He called it the greatest letdown of his footballing life, and it never left him. From that day forward, he never trusted boardrooms. Only players, only people. That wound would define the fire he carried into management. Because Bill Shankly never forgot what it felt like to be thrown aside after giving everything. He didn't walk into greatness. He carved through failure, false promises, and broken clubs with nothing but principle in his hands. Carlisle United gave him his first job, player manager, 1949. The pitch was rough. The resources were thin, but Shankly made them climb. 15th to 9th, then 3rd. The board promised bonuses. They broke their word. So Shankly broke ties. If the players were cheated, I wouldn't stand for it. He didn't. He walked. First of many times he'd leave on principle. Never for comfort, never for compromise. Next, Grimsby Town, 1951. Once a proud top-flight club, now sinking. He took a pay cut to join, almost dragged them to promotion in year 1. But again, ambition from above, missing. Players sold, promises broken. Shankly walked again. Then came Workington, a club running on hope and debt. He managed the team, answered the phone, typed letters, collected wages from the bank. He even fought rugby officials over pitch conditions. But he never lost faith, because football, to him, was worth fighting for. Huddersfield Town came in 1955. Assistant first, then manager. He gave a debut to a boy named Dennis Law because Shankly didn't wait for permission to believe in brilliance. But even there, limits came from above. The pattern was clear. Shankly could lift teams, but not club boards. So he waited. Waited for a place that would give him the keys, the trust, and the room to build something worthy of his fire. That place would soon call, and everything would change. 1959. Liverpool were in the 2nd division. Melwood was a jungle. Anfield was fading. The club had history, but no heartbeat. That's when Bill Shankly walked in. Not as a manager, as a force. He demanded total control before signing, training, transfers, tactics. If he couldn't build the future, he wouldn't fake the present. In his first year, he cleared out 24 players, Gone. No apologies. He brought in men who believed: Ron Yates, Ian Street John, Kevin Keegan, Emlyn Hughes, Ray Clements. Each one hand-picked. Not just for skill, for spirit. He rebuilt Melwood into a temple. He drained Anfield's waterlogged pitch, overhauled training grounds, rebuilding not just spirit, but soil. He started the boot room, a place of plans, of trust, of quiet revolution, and above all, he gave the fans a voice. No more top-down arrogance, no more invisible walls. To Shankly, the fans were the club. At a football club, there's a holy trinity: the players, the manager, and the supporters. He didn't just coach, he created a culture, a standard, a way. The Liverpool Way. Grit over glamour, unity over ego, belief over everything. The city didn't just get its club back, it got its soul back. Liverpool was no longer waiting for glory. It was being rebuilt in Shankly's image, one tackle, one chant, one heartbeat at a time. What began in dust turned into dominance. The team Shankly built wasn't just good, it was relentless. By 1963-64, Liverpool were champions. First division title, their first in 17 years. Then again in 1965-66. And once more in 1972-73. 3 league titles. But Shankly wasn't chasing silver. He was chasing identity. In 1965, Liverpool claimed their first ever FA Cup, ending decades of near misses with a historic triumph. Shankly called it the proudest day of my life. The parade brought hundreds of thousands into the streets because this wasn't just a trophy, it was a resurrection. And still he pushed. In 1973, Liverpool lifted their first European trophy, the UEFA Cup, beating Borussia Mönchengladbach. It was the moment Liverpool's name echoed across borders. But trophies weren't the legacy. Belief was. He gave them a song. You'll never walk alone. He gave them a purpose. We are Liverpool. And he gave them a fortress. Anfield. Not just a stadium, but a storm. He turned strangers into teammates, players into warriors, a city into a movement. I wasn't there to win for myself. I was there to win for the people. And the people knew. What he built wasn't temporary. It was a kingdom in red, founded on values, lifted by sweat, protected by fire, Knitton City Fire. Fresh off another FA Cup victory, Liverpool stood tall. The machine was complete. The empire was thriving. And then, Shankly walked away. No warning, no build-up, just a press conference and a shockwave. At age 60, he said it was time to rest, time for family, time to enjoy life beyond the dugout. But the truth was heavier. He was exhausted, not from matches, but from carrying expectation, from being the standard every week, every season. He had become more than a manager. He was a myth trying to live like a man. Fans were devastated. Phones at Anfield rang non-stop. The Liverpool Echo called it, "Shock bombshell, Shankly retires." Even Everton fans stood stunned. Rivals by tradition, but united in respect. His wife, Nessie, had long urged him to slow down. And now he finally listened. "I wanted a bit more life in my life," he said. "To see more of my family, to rest." But behind those words was a man who had lived only one way, all in. And once he stepped back, the world he gave everything to began to move on without him. The beginning of the end had quietly arrived. He thought he'd still be part of it. The gates he opened, the club he rebuilt, the people he fought for. But once he stepped away, they closed the door behind him. No director role, no ambassador title, no formal place in the club he had raised from the dirt. The board moved on. The new era wanted distance. Bob Paisley, his quiet lieutenant, was told to lead without the shadow of a giant standing nearby. And so Bill Shankly, the man who gave Liverpool its soul, was barred from Melwood. He still turned up, out of habit, out of love. But they asked him to stop coming. They feared his presence would undermine the new reign. It broke him. He never said it in public, but those close to him knew. He felt exiled. "I gave them everything," he told a friend. "Now I feel like a stranger." He tried to stay close in other ways: radio shows, interviews, visits to the Kop. Once, in 1975, he stood shoulder to shoulder with fans on the terrace. No VIP box, no red carpet, just him and the people. Kevin Keegan would later say, "It was the saddest thing I've ever seen at Liverpool." Shankly began to regret his retirement, called it his biggest mistake, because football wasn't a job, it was his identity. And now he was drifting. Not because of age, not because of failure, but because the very machine he built was afraid to honor him while it kept running September 1981. Bill Shankly collapsed at home. A sudden heart attack. He was rushed to Broad Green Hospital in Liverpool. At first, stable. Then, just before dawn on September 29th, he suffered a second massive attack, and this time, he was gone. 68 years old. No alcohol, no cigarettes, just a man who had lived at full intensity until his heart simply couldn't carry it anymore. The city froze. The headlines ran heavy. And still, it didn't feel real. This was the man who built the anthem, who turned a second division club into European champions, who gave Liverpool its identity, and now he was gone, without ever truly being brought back in. Liverpool and Everton cancelled training. At the Labour Party conference, delegates stood for a minute's silence, not just for a manager, but for a man who stood for working-class pride and dignity. Joe Fagan, who followed Paisley, said it bluntly. He died of a broken heart. And it felt that way. Shankly wasn't just physically gone. He had been fading ever since the club he built pushed him away. The timing stung even more. Liverpool, as a city, was already hurting, strangled by unemployment, scarred by the Toxteth riots just weeks earlier. Shankly's death felt like one more nail in the city's chest. On October 2nd, he was cremated at Anfield Crematorium, and by request, his ashes were scattered near the Kop, right where the voices still sang, right where his spirit had always lived. He was gone. But Liverpool couldn't forget. Not really. Not forever. In 1982, the club did something symbolic. Something sacred. They built the Shankly Gates just outside Anfield. Iron, proud, permanent, etched across the top, "You'll never walk alone." His wife, Nessie, unlocked them at the opening ceremony. And the crowd, they didn't chant a player's name. They chanted his. In 1997, a statue followed. A bronze tribute, coat draped, arms open, smile wide. The inscription reads, "He made the people happy." Not, "He won the cup." Not, "He brought trophies." But he gave joy to the broken. He gave dignity to the forgotten. That was his real legacy. Shankly didn't invent football. He reminded it what it was for. And long after the medals were melted, long after the suits moved on, his vision lived on, through Paisley, through Fagan, through every Liverpool side that played with grit, unity, and fire. Today, when the Kop sings, when scarves rise, when belief floods a stadium like red smoke, that's Shankly. Not a ghost, a pulse. He built a kingdom for the people and died feeling forgotten by its throne. But every chant, every banner, every heartbeat at Anfield still roars his name. Subscribe if you believe the soul of football must never be silenced. Because Bill Shankly didn't just make a team, he made a truth.